Hey team, welcome to the first anniversary of the Influential PMO Channel's live stream. And yeah, for me, live streams are terrifying. So I'm sorry if this is at all a bit shaky or a bit, we'll see. But I thought it was worth doing something a little bit unusual because it's to mark 1 year since the first video went up. And actually, the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that it's not exactly 1 year since the videos started going live. It's a year and a day. So I should have really done this live stream yesterday, but I had another engagement. I had to go to the hospital with my wife to get a scan of our new junior PMO, and I'll probably be dropping a few updates about her progress as things progress with this channel. So sorry, I couldn't make it yesterday. I had to postpone by 1 day, and I think under the circumstances that's understandable. So I wanted to do something a little bit different today, and besides being live and doing a live stream, I'm also wearing much brighter colours than usual. I'm not sure if you can see this around the mic. I am supporting Team GB tonight, and I was really worried a few days ago that I was going to be sitting here grumbling about the fact that there's no medals, but the medals have started to roll in. So congratulations to Team GB. And if there's somebody else you're supporting in the Olympics, please let us know in the comments. It's all friendly competition, but I'm sure we'll beat you. Unless you're from the United States. Okay, so I wanted to talk about a few things tonight, and I'm coming at tonight's session from a slightly different perspective. It's part creator perspective, part PMO channel perspective. So if some of this seems to move between those topics, and I'm talking about being a YouTube content creator, and then later on I'm responding to your questions or talking about project management content, I'm sorry if that's a little bit inconsistent, and I hope it's not too jarring. But this really is about me saying thank you. It's saying thank you to everybody who's chosen to subscribe. And I'll tell you, a year ago, if you'd said to me that I would have over 1,600 subscribers 1 year in, for somebody who'd never ever tried to record themselves with a video camera, still didn't know how to use a camera or how lenses worked or any of that kind of thing, and had never edited a video or anything of this nature, if you told me a year ago that many people would have subscribed, I wouldn't have believed you. And I'm frankly amazed that so many people have given up their time to watch my content and hopefully have gained value from this. It's something that I find very humbling, and as long as I'm not wasting your time, and as long as I'm always giving you value, then I'll carry on. I do have some updates on the future of the channel, though, a little bit later on. Nothing scary, but actually it's quite exciting and terrifying. I'll come to that in a bit. But it's been a hell of a journey for the last year. I've learned so much, and I'll share with you now. I've been fortunate enough to build a community on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Facebook, and on LinkedIn, and I get various types of messages, and it's always kind and respectful. So, if anybody's thinking about having some sort of a career in YouTubing or doing anything to do with presenting yourself on social media, my experience is go ahead. It's not as horrible as people say. I'm sure Twitter's different, but From my experience, it's been overwhelmingly positive. And whenever I've been given a chance to respond to people's questions and queries, that's exactly what I wanted to be here for. And the only thing that I ask, it's more than enough that you are not just subscribers, but there are people who haven't subscribed who are just active viewers, and that's absolutely fine as well. There's no obligation. I respect your inputs and your time and the value of that precious time equally. So all I would ask is engage a little bit more and let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what I can do better on this channel. And if it's a case that there's something with the sound levels, or you want more live streams, or hopefully less, just let me know, and I'll do what I can to make this more suitable to you. On this story, I'm not the hero. You're the hero of the story. I'm just here to help you on your journey. And anytime I've managed to do that, that has been incredibly uplifting for me. And maybe I'll do a special video at some point just on that kind of feedback. I don't know, but I'm not going to do it now because I'll start blubbing. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about was the changes of going back to working in London following Freedom Day, and I'll touch on that in a little moment. And there's been a little bit of news out of HS2 in the last week. I don't know if anyone's picked that up, but if you're interested in project management topics, then you might find it interesting. I've got a few questions from some members of the community, and I'll respond to that. And of course, I'll give you some updates as well on some of the things that are coming up as well, and some collaborations that are coming up as well. So I guess really the first thing I wanted to talk about was Freedom Day. So my observation, being an early riser and jumping on the train before 6 o'clock in the morning to get to London, was that the trains were still very quiet. And I thought, okay, summer holidays, people aren't really in the city that much. But when I got out deliberately this time in Liverpool Street Station, and I usually go all the way to Aldgate on the Met Line. And I got out in Liverpool Street, and I was walking halfway through the station and it looked deserted. And then something like, I don't know, a bunch of trains must have arrived at the other end, because there was suddenly just a swarm of people coming at me in the opposite direction, and it suddenly got really busy. The city, I noticed, was quite busy. Not as busy as pre-pandemic, obviously, but it was a lot busier, and there was a lot more energy, and there was more vibrance, and it was lively, and yeah, it was good. It was good. And the only thing I noticed was, as soon as you're out of the station, nobody was wearing masks. It's like that curse had gone completely. But as soon as you go back indoors, whether it's in a shop or into an office, people start being not sure whether to put the mask on or not. And I had this experience as well. The building that my employers are based in, the entire foyer area, which had been completely COVID protected, with all the perspex screens and markers on the floor where to go and all the social distance warnings, all of that had gone. The only evidence that anything like that had ever existed was in the lifts, where it suggested wearing a mask in that environment. So I thought that was interesting. It was great to go for lunch again in Spitalfield Market. I went to that, is it Smokalo? Big barbecue place. I ate so much, I could have slept during the afternoon. And speaking of tiredness, that's the one thing also that I noticed. I was just exhausted at the end of that day, and I found this every time I've gone back to the office. I am significantly more tired at the end of the day, probably as a result of all the different kinds of stimulation, the constant engagement, and really kind of raising your social game. So That's just something that I observed. It's more evidence that I've turned more introvert in my later years than even I'd possibly realised. So, yeah, that was interesting. Sorry, my voice is almost gone. Right before this live stream started, the mic stopped working, and I tried to fix it by screaming at it, and yeah, now I'm paying for that. So on the Q&As, I've had a few come in through Facebook and Instagram, I think it was. And the first one was it was just really random. I'm not, again, as always, I'm not going to name anyone who does a Q&A question. I don't want to embarrass anybody. How many projects can I manage at once? And the answer to that is I don't know. It really does depend on the projects themselves. Maybe it's one. Maybe there's one that's so challenging, so demanding that you can only focus on one at a time. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. I do know there are other people who can do and have reported doing more than 70 projects at a time. And I would question the definition of project maybe in that situation, and whether we're talking about comparing like with like. But it's possible to do lots of small changes over an extended period of time. So to be honest with you, it's too vague of a question. I'm afraid I'm not able to fully answer that one without knowing a lot more about your capabilities, the nature of the projects, the complexity involved, just so many factors. So how many projects can I manage at once? I'd say that's largely down to you. I would always say, though, that there's two conflicting pieces of advice here. One is to always try to do more than you think you're capable of, because that's how you stretch yourself and you manage to grow and get better at what you do. The other piece of advice is to not burden yourself to the point that your mental health deteriorates. So look for signs of stress and anxiety. Look for the warning signs for that. If you go to the Mind website, there's some really good information on there about finding those clues that you're starting to come under too much pressure, perhaps. So you've got to gauge it against yourself, your own capability, and the projects as well. Next question was, should I join APM or PMI? I don't know if it was a question of should I join one or the other, or should I just join one? I would say the answer is yes. If you're able to, if you're in a position to, join both, like I did. Get the wealth of all of their knowledge. Give yourself the best opportunity to learn as much as you can from really engaged peers. And, you know, I've done a lot more with APM related events. I've gone to a lot more of their seminars and networking events, although I'm not much of a smooth networker. But I've learned an awful lot from their webinars, and I definitely recommend signing up with them and going along to them. And no, I'm not sponsored by APM or PMI. I've got no agreement like that. I'm just a member of both organizations, and there's a hell of a lot to learn from them. So yeah, the answer is yes, you should join. If I want to start a project and I fail to get enough qualified people to fill the gaps, what should I do? Now, this question is one of the reasons why I dread live streams, because if this question had just come through on the chat, and if you're on the chat, please say hello and let me know who you're supporting in the Olympics. But if this had come through to me on the chat, my first response probably would have been to talk about things like market forces and to make the roles with your organization more attractive, either financially or better terms. But then on reflection, I realised that maybe I was missing a potential suggestion. So firstly, yes, try to make the role as appealing and attractive as you can to potential candidates. Take a look at, going back to APM, have a look at their staff surveys, and you'll see that there are factors much more important than salary being cited as reasons why people are looking for new jobs. So I think I've done a video on that as well. So if you go back through the back catalogue, you'll find, I think there's a short on there with lots of reasons why people are looking for different jobs and their motivations in the market. But really, people want to feel valued. People want to feel like they're making a contribution, and they want to look forward to working with the people in their team. So I would say have a look at what you can do in your environment to enable that. The next suggestion is learning what we have post-COVID. We've seen that we can work quite well remotely. So if you can't get people to join your team in a specific location, is there any way that you can get that role out there to the rest of the world, and maybe get people joining from, other countries? Maybe do you need someone local? So consider the possibility of having a remote team. Now, I've just seen a message from Ray Nix saying hello. Hello, Ray. He's just said hello on the chat. You might remember Ray as being the collaborator who worked with me on a recent video explaining his reasons why he left project management. So if you haven't had a chance, I really strongly recommend you go and watch that. He's got some interesting things to say. So the next part I wanted to talk about actually was the HS2 news. So I'm just going to switch over the screen. So HS2 Phase 2B has been given a red score, meaning it's unachievable rating by the Infrastructure Projects Authority. The Infrastructure Projects Authority is not like some pesky PMO that you can ignore. It's actually, it reports directly to the Cabinet Office and to the Treasury. And what they found is that the latest review has revealed that the likelihood of them achieving their aims and objectives and doing so on time and on budget are not likely. The red rating means successful delivery of the project appears to be unachievable. There are major issues with project definition, schedule, budget, quality, and/or benefits delivery, which at this stage do not appear to be manageable or resolvable. The project may need rescoping and/or its overall viability reassessed. So, my heart breaks for project managers in a situation like that. These are problems from the very top. Now, HS2 is an extremely unpopular project where I live. The line going from London to Birmingham is cutting through the Chilterns and is making it an incredibly unpleasant environment wherever it's going. So it's extremely unpleasant here. There's lots of signs everywhere you go saying no to HS2. I think that when I see these kind of situations emerge, it makes me feel sorry for the project managers. They're doing the best that they can, but their project is unviable. And there's a bit of me that thinks, well, I know HS2 always becomes a political debate, but how much of this is being driven just by politics? So, yeah, I feel pretty bad for the people involved. And to be honest with you, this part here as well, it's focused on the north, which is the area that needs the benefits of HS2 the most. So seriously, why they've actually wasted so much on the south part, I really don't know. Baffles me. Anyway. Okay, so before I move on and talk about the future of the channel, I just want to say a thank you to the people who've done collaborations in the past. Oh, I can see Andy Smales has just said hello. He's following along but watching Little One at the same time. Hello, Andy's Little One. I just want to say thank you to some of the collaborators who've helped over the last year. Amy Tarrant, a regular collaborator, she's been on here a few times. Mike Coppenhout, Powan Area, and Phil Taylor for their tips to project managers. To Amy again with Sue Noble and Hina Shavdia for contributing content. And to Alistair Cruikshank, Ray Nix, and Mark Wilkinson for their interviews. So, guys, thank you ever so much. I'm glad my voice wasn't breaking during that session. Now, for the future, I've actually got some really exciting collaborations lined up. So, I'm going to be talking with Kevin Hall, who's one of the writers of Kill Bad Meetings. Hina Shavdi is going to come on here to talk about presenting to steercos. Ben White's going to come on to talk about what project managers should reasonably expect from BAs. Ryan Williamson's going to talk about weaponized common sense. So you can follow him and Weaponized Common Sense on LinkedIn if you've got an account. Andy Smells, whose little one is waving back, is going to be doing a talk with me about rescuing projects that are in danger. We haven't quite worked out the exact nature of that one yet, but that's in progress. Now I'm hoping to get Ken Burrell on here to talk about his book, Learning Lessons from Projects, which I'm reading at the moment. It's an interesting read. Now, Ken Burrell, also known as the Pragmatic PMO, is a hugely inspiring speaker, especially about topics around lessons learned. And I first encountered him at one of the APM events that I mentioned earlier. I believe he's going to be doing a talk at Project Challenge in London later on this year. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, go ahead and get yourself a ticket. I believe the tickets are free, so sign up. I'm going to be doing a video as well about the inputs I've received from the project management community on Instagram. And I'm going to be doing a piece with to do with the definitions of PMO from a question I asked the LinkedIn community. So some interesting things coming up in that front in terms of collaborations. So I'm really looking forward to working with these people. And I'm definitely looking forward to working with any of the previous collaborators again as well. Okay. And I am sorry about my voice going today, by the way. I wasn't joking. I really was screaming at the microphone when it cut out right before the live stream. So, for the future, now this part's going to be a little bit more creator content, I suppose. One of the things that you might not know about how YouTube videos are made. If you start a YouTube channel, you start looking at the advice of people who make regular content, and what they talk about is making content in batches. So look for these clues when you encounter it. What you'll see is creators will have a series of videos where everything looks exactly the same, even though they set up a studio in their own home. Everything in the background is the same, the lighting's the same. All that's changed is the t-shirt they're wearing. So there's a little insider information about YouTubers. We actually record usually batches of content, and you change the t-shirt to give the impression so that when one video plays after the other, it doesn't look like you sat there and just done a big batch. Now, there's nothing wrong with creating batches of content, especially if you're doing tutorials or things like that. But there's a problem with it. The problem is you do less recordings, which is the benefit. The idea is, it takes me about an hour and a half to set up the studio in here, to get camera set up, lighting set up, composition right, and to be absolutely ready, microphones ready. And it takes a really long time to do that. So the reason you do it is to save time. But for me, it's proven to be a bit of a barrier. You see, the less you do something, the slower you improve at that thing. So I've made a year's worth of content, but I've probably recorded maybe 20 or 30 times. So what I'm going to do going forward is slightly change things. And you need to be a little bit aware of this, because it's going to have a consequence. Right now, when I have an idea for a video, and it usually comes to me during the working day, sometimes it comes to me during the weekend, I'll jot it down. I've got a little ideas notepad. It's on OneNote, and there are now over 200 ideas for future content listed on there. And what bugs me is if I step in front of a bus at some point, or I don't wake up tomorrow, they'll have just been ideas and they will disappear along with me. So I have that nagging, morbid thought. And also another thought is that I haven't mastered the studio setup, presentation of information, but it's not developing as fast as maybe I would like. And that's because of less practice. The less you do, the slower you develop. So because I've got this situation going on at home where we've got a new child coming in December, and there's also going to be a whole lot of house renovations going on. So there's going to be things from upstairs packed into this room as well, which is the studio, and it's going to impact on my recording. What I planned originally was to do a huge batch and try to create about 6 months worth of content, maybe even a year's worth, all in one recording. And then I thought, well, if I did that, then all that's going to happen is I'm only ever going to be as good for the whole of next year as I am on the day that I record it. So how do I get better? How do I get over all of these problems of ideas sitting in a notepad and also wanting to develop better? And I've come up with an answer, and it's going to be a difficult one to do. But I'm actually going to record content whenever I think of a topic. So you see the camera set up behind me. From now on, as I'm working, every time I have an idea, instead of putting it into a notepad, I'm going to jot it down until I take my next break. I'll scribble a few extended thoughts around it. Then I'll spin around, talk to the camera, and then on my lunch break or after work, I'll edit quickly and upload. So it's going to be a very different feel to the content that I made before. And what I'm hoping is going to happen is that I get away from something else that I noticed was creeping into the videos. I watched back one of my videos and I didn't like the tone. I didn't notice it at the time I was recording it. And I didn't really pick up on it during the editing process. But it was very lecturing. And there's a hell of a lot of people on here lecturing project management and other things to you. And that's not who I am. Anybody who's worked with me will tell you that I'm more of a guiding, nurturing, supportive kind of person. And I don't usually just resort to wagging a finger at you. I might well say, this is best practice, or if it's instructional for how to do a set of things, maybe in some sort of a tutorial, obviously you still have to go step by step by step. But there are so many parts of it that aren't lecturing and actually are more discussional. And that's really what I always wanted this channel to be. I didn't ever want to be a guru, because I'm not a guru. I'm not better than you or any viewer. I might know one thing more than you in an area of use to you. That's about it. And as long as I know one more thing than you in a topic, I have some use to you, and you can get value from watching the content. But I've never put myself in the position of being a guru. I've never wanted to try to elevate myself. I'm trying to elevate the people around me. And I think if I can do that in a respectful and collaborative way, then all the better. And one way to do that is to break the barrier that the studio setup will inevitably bring into this engagement. So I'm going to be doing more talks to that per day, perhaps. So you never know. I'm not going to commit to doing a daily release, because that kind of thing puts too much pressure on creators. But if I think of an idea every day and I've got the time, why not? And I experimented this a little bit earlier this week by releasing a set of shorts videos that were dropping out every day, and I wanted to see if there would be anything like any sign of viewer fatigue, and whether people would start to stop tuning in. So anyway, let me know your thoughts on that, because you're my audience, so I'm making this stuff for you. So it's probably going to be a lot more, but shorter videos and clips. They'll probably be less, stylistic. There probably won't be so much room for B-roll and soundtracks and things like that. But the B-roll is whenever there's a transitional thing, or you're covering a cut in a video and it cuts away and you see people in offices and stuff like that. Whenever you watch all my videos, you'll spot it. It's the content that's not me looking at the camera. And if I can do this different style, maybe I can give you more value more frequently. But at the same time, I don't want to bore you and I don't want to burn you out. So please keep giving feedback. If you think this idea absolutely sucks, then let me know. If you think it's a brilliant idea, let me know. If you think I should try and do it daily, let me know. I can always do a special live stream at some point showing me completely cracking up under the pressure. And maybe I'll do more live streams. I don't know. What I will do is I promise I'll have lozenges and not to scream at microphones before the live streams. So anyway, so that's me. That's the future of the channel for the foreseeable future. My wife has just popped on, Renata, to wish a happy 1-year anniversary for the Influential PMO channel. Thank you very much, Renata. There are not many wives who would have allowed their husbands to turn an entire room into a studio and to spend thousands on all of this equipment, including one light that cost nearly £1,000, more than the camera. So thank you for the support. And to subscribers and active viewers, please keep feeding back. Let me know if the content's helping you. Let me know if any of this is beneficial to you. If you need to reach out and talk to me directly, My details, my social media details are in the description of almost every video. And I'd love to hear from you. So I wish you all the best. Stay tuned. Let's see what happens next. Thank you.